Modular kitchens are designed for quick installation, not for you to live comfortably in them long term. And the gap between those two things consists of the exact mistakes in this video. You'd be awesome if you liked this video. 1. Uniform countertop height. The 36-inch standard for all kitchen countertops dates back to the 1950s, calculated for the average height of a man at the time. 70 years later, that number is still applied to almost every modular kitchen without anyone questioning why. A physical therapist in Phoenix once told me that about 30% of her patients have lower back and wrist problems directly related to incorrect cooking posture. The majority of them aren't doing anything wrong. They're just using a kitchen designed for someone else's body. The problem is most obvious in the sink area. The bottom of the sink is often 8 to 10 inches lower than the countertop, meaning the lower back has to bend forward every time you wash dishes. Conversely, the island at exactly 36 inches causes shoulder and wrist fatigue during prolonged kneading or chopping because the arm angle is unnatural. The solution isn't complicated. The sink area should be raised to 38 to 39 inches. The prep or baking station is lowered to 32 to 34 inches, depending on the height of the primary user. The cost difference for a multi-level setup typically ranges from $500 to $1,500, which is far less than the dozens of physiotherapy sessions some homeowners might undergo simply because their kitchen was designed according to standards from 7 decades ago. The next mistake is not related to materials or colors, but to something you look at every day yet have never questioned why it makes you tired. 2. Overly narrow cooking zones. On a blueprint, a cooktop looks balanced, and the surrounding space seems wide enough. However, drawings never show a 12-quart stock pot boiling on a rear burner with the handle pointing straight at the backsplash. NKBA standards recommend a minimum of 18 inches from the center of the rear burner to the backsplash. Many modern kitchens are installed at only 15 to 16 inches because designers prioritize a balanced countertop depth on paper. Those 3 inches make the difference between comfortably rotating a large pot and having to lift the entire thing to adjust it, because the handle is blocked by the wall. The consequences don't show up immediately. Homeowners start avoiding the rear burners after a few weeks because they are too inconvenient. All cooking activity gets crowded onto the 2 front burners. This makes the adjacent prep zone hotter and more cramped, especially when cooking multiple dishes for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. If your countertop depth isn't enough to reach the 18-inch standard, switching to a 3-burner linear cooktop instead of a 2x2 grid is more practical. You lose 1 burner, but every remaining burner becomes fully usable. Before signing a contract, place your largest pot on the scale drawing. If the handle touches the backsplash on paper, it will touch it in reality. 3. Lack of lighting layering. In the evening, when all the recessed ceiling lights are turned on at once, many kitchens look more like a clinic than a place where a family wants to relax. Bright white light pouring straight down causes glare on the countertops. Your hands cast shadows right over the area where you are chopping vegetables. The space loses the warm atmosphere you spend a lot of money to create. The problem isn't having too many lights. It has only one type of light. Recessed lights handle ambient lighting well, but they don't distinguish between work zones and living zones. This is why modern kitchen design divides lighting into at least 3 layers. Under cabinet lighting at 2700 Kelvin shines directly on the prep area. This allows you to see every knife stroke without shadows. This is the most important task lighting, yet it's the one most kitchens lack. Pendant lights. Over the island at 3000 Kelvin create a softer focal point and draw the eyes downward, giving the space depth. Dimmable switches allow you to transition from cooking mode to dinner mode with a single touch. Adding under-cabinet lighting and dimmable switches to a finished kitchen costs between $800 and $2,000. Doing it during construction costs only $300 to $600 because you don't have to tear open walls for wiring. There is rarely an investment in a kitchen renovation where you will feel a bigger difference every single night. 4. Overly complex pantries. Shiny wire baskets and floor-to-ceiling pull-out systems look incredibly impressive in a showroom. They also look great the first time you organize them, because you are likely using uniform, clean, and half-empty containers. Your first trip to Costco will reveal the reality. A 25-pound bag of rice won't fit on a wire rack. A 14-inch tall cereal box won't stand upright in a 12-inch tray. Olive oil bottles tip over every time you pull the tray out. Small appliances that need temporary storage find no place in a system designed for perfectly sized dry goods. Metal frames and sliders take up 3 to 4 inches on each side. A 24-inch pantry cabinet with full pullouts often leaves you with only 16 to 17 inches of usable space. You're paying for a 24-inch pantry but only using the space of a 16-inch one. I once saw a kitchen in Scottsdale renovated with a $70,000 budget. After just 4 months, the owner removed all the wire baskets and replaced them with adjustable flat shelves because they couldn't store real groceries comfortably. Flat shelves combined with 1 or 2 deep drawers at the bottom offer much better results. They can handle heavy items that wire racks never could. 5. Pocket doors for daily use cabinets. Pocket doors are one of the most requested features in kitchen renovations today. The doors slide neatly into the cabinet walls, making everything disappear when closed for a seamless look. The problem isn't that pocket doors aren't beautiful. The problem is they are being installed in the wrong places. For an appliance garage or a coffee station opened once or twice a morning, pocket doors work fine. But when applied to a pantry or a daily storage cabinet, the number of steps increases 10 to 20 times a day. Open the door, push it into the wall, grab your item, pull the door out, and close it. That is 5 steps instead of 1. After a few months, most homeowners just leave the doors open permanently. That is exactly when the entire design purpose fails. Pocket door tracks are much more sensitive than standard hinges. Dust and food crumbs getting into the tracks are unavoidable in a real kitchen. Replacing a recessed track system costs between $300 and $800 per unit, not including labor. Pocket doors deserve a place in modern kitchens, but only in low-frequency areas away from daily grease and steam. A coffee station, wine storage, or display cabinet is the right place. A daily pantry or cookware cabinet is not. There is one thing in the kitchen that most people only think about after the countertop is already cluttered with power cords everywhere. 6. Electrical outlets and small appliance stations. A countertop cluttered with cords isn't always a sign of a messy person. It's often the sign of a kitchen designed for the needs of 10 years ago. Air fryers, coffee machines, instant pots, toasters, blenders, and at least 1 or 2 phone chargers appear on the counter every day. The problem usually isn't a lack of outlets, but outlets placed so poorly they are almost useless. Outlets placed behind the refrigerator or microwave look neat on a blueprint because the cords disappear. But every time a device needs to be reset, the homeowner has to pull out a heavy appliance. A friend in Nashville had to pull out his fridge 12 times just to reset the water filter before he finally called an electrician. Adding an outlet after the walls are finished costs $200 to $400 per point, compared to just $50 to $80 during construction. According to NEC standards, countertops need outlet space no more than 48 inches apart, and islands need at least 1 outlet for every 4 linear feet. An appliance garage with built-in outlets allows your coffee machine or toaster to run inside the cabinet without taking up counter space. Building an appliance garage during construction costs $400 to $900, which is much cheaper than retrofitting one later. 7. Overly ornate cabinet hardware. A typical kitchen has 30 cabinet doors and drawers. Each is opened an average of 3 times a day. That means handles endure over 32,000 touches per year. Choosing the wrong handle isn't just an aesthetic mistake. Large handles with intricate patterns or curves look custom and luxurious in a catalog. But when dozens of them appear across a long row of cabinets, the eye is constantly distracted by repeating metal details. The space starts to feel much heavier than it did in the photos. Maintenance is the real issue. Handles with small crevices and complex curves trap grease in a way that flat surfaces never do. Grime builds up in those gaps, and after 6 to 12 months, it creates a stain that no regular cleaner can fully remove. A kitchen in Tampa renovated in 2021 had classic-style handles that the owner had to clean with a toothbrush every week. By 2023, they switched everything to Gola profiles and called it the best decision they ever made. Gola profiles have no protruding surfaces to catch grease and no gaps to hold dust. They make the cabinets look significantly more seamless. The cost difference compared to traditional handles is $800 to $1,500 for a full kitchen, but it's money you won't have to spend on toothbrushes and specialty cleaners for years to come. 8. Monotonous all-white kitchens. An all-white kitchen looks best in a photo taken at 10 a.m., with the sun hitting it at just the right angle. That is why they are all over Pinterest. But you don't live in your kitchen only at 10 a.m. with perfect sunlight. When every surface is the same tone, the space loses visual depth. The human eye has nowhere to rest. In the evening, under artificial light, the warm feeling you want in a family kitchen almost completely disappears. This is why many homeowners spend a fortune on all-white kitchens, but still feel like the space is missing something they can't quite explain. A family in Charlotte finished an all-white kitchen with an $85,000 budget. Less than a year later, they went back to add a sage green island and replaced the white countertops with veined quartz. The renovation cost over $12,000. Now, they could have achieved that result from the start if the original design had included a layer of contrast. White is still the best backdrop for a kitchen, but it needs at least one layer of contrast for depth. Oak accents on the island, heavily veined quartzite, or an earthy tone on the lower cabinets can create that balance without losing the bright, spacious feel. Even after wiping the backsplash, it still doesn't look clean under the light. The next part will tell you that it's not your fault, but the material's fault. 9. Textured backsplashes. Textured backsplashes look great under showroom lights because the angles highlight the texture without showing what is hidden inside the small gaps. Your home kitchen is different. Grease splatters during cooking, and nothing is staged. For families who cook frequently with oil or colorful spices like curry and paprika, a textured backsplash starts to build up residue within months. Grease seeps into the small crevices and stays there. A regular wipe down only cleans the surface. The inner gaps require a soft brush and specialized cleaners every few weeks. A contractor in Houston noted that about 40% of his renovation projects in the last 2 years involved replacing textured backsplashes with solid slabs. It wasn't because the homeowners changed their style. They were simply tired of the cleaning. Large format porcelain slabs with few to no grout lines solve this problem entirely. The flat surface has no place for grease to hide. One wipe with a damp cloth cleans everything. A 24 by 48 inch porcelain slab currently costs between $8 and $15 per square foot. It is not much more expensive than mosaic tile, but it saves a significant amount of maintenance time over the years. 10. Waterproof materials for wet zones. The cabinet under the sink is exposed to more water than any other part of the kitchen, yet it is often the least protected. Moisture from drain pipes, drips from supply lines, and floor cleaning water create an environment that standard particle board isn't designed to handle. The damage happens completely out of sight. The bottom of the sink cabinet absorbs moisture and swells on the inside, while the outer surface still looks fine. A kitchen in suburban Dallas renovated in 2020 for $55,000 had this issue. When the owner opened the cabinet in 2023 to install an organizer, they found the bottom panel had swollen nearly an inch. A supply line had been leaking slightly for 2 years without anyone knowing. The cost to replace the sink base cabinet and repair. The floor was $1,800. Upgrading to a PVC plastic cabinet box cost only $150 to $300 more than particle board for the sink area. PVC does not absorb moisture, does not swell, and has no odor even after years of water exposure. This isn't a luxury, it's simply using the right material for the environment. For the rest of the kitchen, moisture-resistant MDF with a high-pressure laminate coating is a more practical choice than full plywood in terms of cost. However, the edges must be completely sealed. Exposed edges absorb moisture much faster than the surface, and that is where the damage usually begins. 11. Trash recycling and sorting zones. A plastic bag hanging on a handle, a small trash can tucked under the sink. After just a few hours of cooking, a kitchen starts to lose its clean feel, even if everything else was carefully designed. The problem isn't a lack of trash cans, it's a lack of a system. Vegetable peels, plastic bottles, cardboard boxes, and food waste all appear at once during cooking, but often get shoved into one spot. This results in a mess, smells develop faster, and you waste time sorting it all out later. A friend in Austin renovated his kitchen for $65,000, but didn't design a specific trash sorting area. 6 months later, he called me to ask for advice because the counters were constantly cluttered with temporary trash bags and smells from the sink were spreading. Adding a pull-out bin system to a finished cabinet, which required removing the old door and adjusting the internal structure, cost $800. It would have cost only $250 if integrated from the start. Brands like Hoffel and Revashelf offer 3-compartment systems for organic waste, recyclables, and general trash. These cost between $150 and $350 depending on the size. When you finish prepping, everything is handled on the spot instead of piling up on the counter. The kitchen looks neater and the entire workflow is much cleaner. 12 tandem drawers. A 24-inch deep lower cabinet sounds like a lot of storage, but when you can only see and reach the front 12 inches because the rest is in the dark, you are only using half of what you paid for. Cookware gets stacked in the shadows. Every time you need something from the back, you have to move a dozen items in the front. Constant bending while cooking puts unnecessary pressure on your lower back, especially during long cooking sessions. A kitchen in Phoenix renovated in 2019 kept all the traditional lower cabinet doors. The owner, a woman in her 60s who cooks daily, had to label the outside of every door to remember where things were because she couldn't see inside. In 2022, she renovated again to a full drawer system. She described it as the one change she wished she had made from the very beginning. Drawer systems from Bloom or Hettich can hold 65 to 130 pounds per drawer, which is enough for the heaviest cast iron cookware. When you pull a drawer out, everything is visible from a top-down view without needing to bend over. Switching from doors to a full drawer system in a 10 by 10 foot kitchen typically costs $1,200 to $2,500. After 6 months of use, almost no one wants to go back to the old way. There is a small gap in the kitchen that most contractors ignore, and most homeowners only notice when they can't open a drawer all the way. 13. Filler panels. Modular cabinets are manufactured to be perfectly square. Your walls are not. Whether it's a new build or an old renovation, no wall is 100% straight. This is a technical fact that many inexperienced designers overlook during installation. When modular cabinets are pushed tight against a corner without a 1 to 2 inch gap, the consequences appear the first time you pull a drawer out. The handle hits the uneven wall next to it. The drawer won't open fully. Corner cabinet doors won't open to a full 90 degrees. These aren't mechanical failures, but they make every action in the kitchen feel slightly obstructed. A kitchen in suburban Seattle skipped all filler panels to save money. The owner had to call a technician back after 3 months because the corner drawer system kept getting stuck. The cost to remove the cabinets, install fillers, and realign everything was $1,100, nearly double the cost of doing it right the first time. Filler panels that match the cabinet color are almost invisible when installed correctly. They hide structural flaws in the walls and ensure the mechanical systems run smoothly. The material cost is usually only $200 to $500. It is a small amount that has a massive impact on the daily user experience. 14. Ventilation systems. An open concept kitchen connects the kitchen to the living room and dining area. This means food odors aren't trapped in a separate area, and the range hood is the only thing standing between your kitchen and the rest of your living space. Most homeowners choose range hoods based on style first, thin and minimalist, almost invisible on the design. But suction power is measured in cubic feet per minute, and this is the number that determines whether the range hood can effectively handle the fumes from actual cooking habits. According to HVI standards, a 4-burner gas range hood needs at least 400 CFM. Cooking many oily dishes or using all burners simultaneously requires 600 CFM or more. A couple in Denver chose a 280 cubic feet per minute range hood because it looked nice. After 8 months, the living room sofa cushions started to smell greasy, even though they weren't cooking anything particularly strong smelling. Replacing a 650 cubic feet per minute range hood costs $1,400, compared to a difference of only $300 to $400 if you choose the right wattage from the start. Brown and Zephyr offer built-in range hoods from 600 to 900 cubic feet per minute that maintain a visually compact look while still handling airflow effectively. Induction cooktops with integrated downdraft ventilation are another option for spaces where a large hood cannot be installed above. Pinterest shows you the most beautiful kitchens, but no photograph on Pinterest tells you how that family lives in it after 2 years. 15. Designing for trends instead of lifestyle. Some kitchens are carefully designed but still become exhausting to use after just a year or two. This isn't because of poor materials or bad contractors. It's because the kitchen was never actually designed for the people living in it. Saving Pinterest photos, following Instagram trends, and trying to recreate a high-end showroom is how many homeowners start. The problem is these steps often happen before anyone asks the most important question. How does this family actually live in the kitchen every day? A family in Portland both worked full-time and only cooked seriously on weekends. They installed a 48-inch 6-burner cooktop because it looked professional, a floor-to-ceiling pull-out pantry because it looked great on Pinterest, and open shelving for all the upper cabinets because it was trending. 18 months later, the cooktop only ever used 2 burners, the pantry was full of things no one remembered buying, and the open shelves were covered in dust. They spent $92,000 on a lifestyle they didn't actually have. The best kitchen isn't the one with the strongest trends. It's the one that understands your actual habits, your family size, your cooking style, and even where everyone tends to sit when chatting. Those factors are more important than any viral trend. They are the only things that determine if you will still be comfortable in your kitchen 8 years from now. Modularity means standardization. But the way you cook, your height, and your walls aren't standardized. The gap between those two things is where these 15 mistakes exist and where you can prevent them before construction begins.